The blight of Dawizar demonsmithing isn't felt just in the Darklands and the Mountains of Morn. Its influence is spread as far as Nuln and beyond, and sometimes it brings them into conflict with a most peculiar foe. The forests have come alive, and the Jabberwock, with eyes of flame, came whiffling through the Tulgi wood and burbled as it came. Here's the thing though, if you're the Chaos Dwarfs, forests are like the least scary thing ever. You can just burn them all down. When you've got an army of fire monsters and your very own Churchill Crocodile flame projecting tank, well, you've got the tools to light up the darkness and force a fight on your own terms. Thomas the Pain Engine, Khazrak, and Minotaurs about to duke it out beneath the castles of Bretonnia. For the Chaos Dwarfs, Oracle Samurai Warrior from Clan Legio Italica is in command with a really cool build, or should I say, muy caliente, very hot, very spicy, Sorcerer Prophet of the Lore of Hashut with the Vial of their Dark God. Really interesting debuff here. It lowers armor and imbues massive flame weakness of 60%. So just a huge damage amp against whatever you cast that on if you have flame damage, which Chaos Dwarfs have in spades. Ashstorm and Hellhammer as his main spells on the Great Taurus. You're flying overhead, casting stuff. Below him is the star of the show today, the mighty Demon's Tongue, which didn't really get to show off in the last replay a whole lot because it doesn't shoot with the Dreadquake attached, but that will get fixed, I believe. This Iron Demon War Engine has double flamethrowers mounted on the prow, and if you hold their head steady, it'll milk the cow. It is Hellbound, perfect vigor, and 20% physical resist, above 25% remaining health, and as you might imagine, quite the force for clearing out swarms of infantry, as are the Kadai Fireborn, who will provide much of the killing power this army has in the mud and blood of the melee grind. Blazing Beards of Bezarak with their Naphtha grenades, blunderbusses, bunch of slaves, and hobgoblins, and that is the build for the Dawizar. On the other side, I'm commanding the Bray Herd of Khazrak One-Eye, Man-Blight Tribe color scheme, Lana Ungor and Gore Herd with a backline of Ungor Archers, and the Vorburgland Broodmother Jabberslythe. This monster is extremely disruptive, with high AP and good armor sundering, so if you can keep it from getting shot to pieces by shotguns or fireglaves and keep it away from bull centaurs, it can rack up unholy amounts of kills against their core frontliners. Aura of Madness and Searing Bileblood both be useful in that role. The legendary Lord Slot, Khazrak himself atop his Razorgore Chariot, Deadly Onslaught, Apocalyptic Vision, and his Deadly Whip Scourge alongside his Dark Mail item. Not really sure why Khazrak of all characters has such a better item than most of the lords, but I wouldn't mind seeing more like it. It's a really cool armor set, and he is scary on top of that chariot. A couple noticeable changes on the balancing front. Bestigor Herd got a buff, 4 more leadership and 6 more melee defense, up from 24 to 30, which will help them a lot. They've kind of been power creeped and have historically been one of the worst performing units on my channel. And alongside the Razorgore Herd in the back, Minotaurs with great weapons went from 28 to 25 bonus versus large, which frankly you're never really going to notice. Still a super good unit and a staple pick for the Beastmen in a lot of matchups. Important to have them in case of Kadai, Taurus, Bull Centaurs, or big scary trains. So as the battle kicks off, the Sorcerer Prophet will start marking targets with his flare gun, imbuing flame weakness so the Demon's Tongue can send them to hell. I really like that interaction. I think that's super cool, like something you'd see in a movie. Mark the target with flares, hit him with that Willy Pete, Jimbo, and then the tank just opens up and burns everything to ash. It does not have long range, only about 80 meters, but the nice thing is you can immediately follow up a burst with a charge and then straight up tear route low tier infantry due to that burnt contact effect. And funnily enough, it has about the same effective range as flamethrower tanks did in World War II. The two tanks I know best that utilize these kinds of tactics were the Sherman Zippo on Iwo Jima and the Churchill Crocodile. There may have been others, but just like in real life, it's a great tool for clearing out entrenched positions, but unlike real life, it's much more designed for also running over people. Not that real tanks couldn't do that, but their standard doctrine typically did not consist of bull rushing into the middle of infantry squads with the sole purpose of crushing them beneath their treads, at least not to my knowledge anyway. I like the aggression out of this thing early though. The trains are quite tanky with that Hellforge passive and it won't get tired, so it can feel pretty comfy doing chariot things until Khazrak or Minotaurs come over to force it off, and by clearing out all these Ungor Herd, it makes shooting the Gore Herd and higher value units that much easier by the time melee is joined. As you've probably been able to tell over the last few days, Chorfs have some fantastic tools for clearing out chaff, not the least of which are the Naphtha bombs from the Blazing Beards and blunderbuss volleys, charges from Kadai, that sort of thing. So as Khazrak sits back and chuckles like Magneto, saying, "In chess, pawns go first," those poor Ungor are being tortured in every fiery way imaginable. Exploded, incinerated, and otherwise discombobulated as the Kadai Fireborn charge into melee with their dual weapons and really start going to town. it is gonna get super ugly for the Bray herds in these early stages. They just have so many tools for clearing out the chaff, the fodder, ripping through them in seconds, and the Beastmen are gonna be on the back foot straight from the word go. Those are some terrifying Babylonian, Assyrian, whatever you want statues, and they can breathe fire, apparently. Yeah, it's bad for the Gore Herd too. So, as the Beastmen close into melee here, they have to be exceptionally careful because in their backline are 2 blunderbusses, and 1 use of that Vial of Hashut and 2 volleys from the blunderbuss will just evaporate that Jabberslythe or any single entity monster. Nice dodge from the Ungor archers. Saw a Hellhammer ripping in from the flank. They moved up just in time, avoided the entire spell, which was wasted by that Sorcerer Prophet. Khazrak Fireborn, nice cycle charge into melee here, causing all kinds of carnage in and amongst the Ungor herd. The Beastmen are already beaten back. Their front line has been heavily reduced in number, in no small part due to the Demon's Tongue Flamethrower tank train and the volleys of their gunpowder troops. Ungor archers are doing well in response though, focus firing the important units like those Khazrak Fireborn become very squishy and easy to kill once they drop below 50% HP and lose their Unbreakable and other unique buffs. Very smart of Samurai to notice that and pull them out of combat. Kind of an underrated thing, but it can be really difficult to notice that in the heat of battle and make that play. It's one of the marks of a good player, so good on him there. Ashstorm in the center as the Sorcerer Prophet charges in on its Great Taurus. Jabberslythe is into melee, but those attack animations, which are such a boon in so many circumstances, can also get it killed sometimes, and they will carry you directly into gunfire or into situations where it's hard for even its high mass to escape and pull its way out of. So Jabberslythe needs to run. Vorburgland Broodmother taking a lot of fire from those blunderbusses, and that Vial of Hashut imbued it with 60% additional flame weakness. So even more damage than you would normally see in there. Bestigor herd over pursued. This is the fate of all Bestigors ever in my employ. I charge them in, I don't cycle charge, I don't pull them away, and then they overrun their position and just get brutalized. Sad face. I need to get better with them. So definitely in favor of the Chaos Dwarfs right now. Wolf Riders try to charge in from behind to deal with those Ungor archers, but the Minotaurs and Razorgore herd were there in support, now clearing out a bunch of Goblin laborers and forcing them off. And we're now about to hit the reset button, which is frankly one of my favorite styles of play, I guess you could say, in any Total War battle, when there's that initial brutal impact, fighting on both sides, lots dead, and then they kind of retreat, sound the horn to reorganize, reform the lines like Theoden, the charge of the Rohirrim, and then go back in. So the Beastmen backed up, they're gonna lick their wounds. We're gonna look at the Bestigor herd stats, which are 55 kills and 350 damage value, so yeah, probably not worth it. And Scourge, Khazrak One-Eye running through whatever remaining Goblin laborers have pushed their way into the backfield. Manticore is still online and very healthy. Broodmother is around half HP, but could still do a ton of damage with the remaining life pool she has to work with. And Khazrak himself, full HP and ready to go in with that Dark Mail. Now the Sorcerer Prophet of this Legion charging in to take a duel, that is interesting, and that might be a micro mistake because Minotaurs and Razorgore herd are nearby. Flying Monstrous Lords can be so useful in so many situations, but if you take your eye off them for a second after issuing an attack order, well, you can get them killed. And it looks like the Great Taurus is going to be able to escape, but he's going to take about half his HP in damage as a result. Just saw another Radiant Gout of Flame from the Demon's Tongue, working itself up into all those nasty Beastmen places where the sun don't shine. Sorcerer Prophet happy to escape with his life after being seen off by Khazrak's elite. That could have gone a lot worse for him. And now we are gearing up for round 2 in this Rumble in the Jungle. Previously routed off Wolf Riders charging into the Ungor herd in the rear. Vorburgland Broodmother ready to see them off, and an Ashstorm to slow down the aggression on the Beastmen's left flank. They wanted to dive through those Hobgoblin cutthroats and get into the blunderbusses, but that combo, Ashstorm slowing down the Beastmen advance, it's such a useful area of denial ability, and if someone tries to force their way through, then they're taking a bunch of extra damage from all your fire sources. So really well positioned there as the Fireborn charge in and continue their carnage. They've been awesome this game. They've cleared out tons of the Beastmen infantry, and they're creating a lot of space for the flamethrowing tank to do disgusting stuff like this. I love this unit. I've always been very partial to Flamethrowers anyway. Iron Drakes are probably my favorite unit on the Dwarf roster. But now we have that on a freaking tank that can then charge into melee and cause terror routes. And it is racking up some serious kills right now. Getting close to 200. Broodmother coming back to reinforce as the Sorcerer Prophet continues his rampage in the back lines. Fireborn might have just bit off more than they can chew with the Minotaurs nearby, but they're actually not going to take that fight. They're going to push through because they saw an opening to get into the blunderbusses, and that is definitely the right call. Khazrak One Eye on his Razor Gourd Chariot, followed up by a bunch of Herd and the Minotaur Mash. They're going in now, and this is the opportunity the Beastmen needed to get back into this game, get rid of the shotgunners, get rid of the range play, and then those monsters will feel pretty isolated and be forced to take a fight against 25 bonus force large great weapon Minotaurs. And this is why the lowly Manticore is so underrated in a lot of ways. Yeah, you can always do Transformation of Khadon, and having that summon is a great tool as well. But there's something to be said about a Manticore that does not disintegrate or crumble out, and diving into the rear to tie down those blunderbusses and open things up for the Minotaurs and the Jabberslight to charge in. It helps a lot, and it's causing all kinds of problems in the Chaos Dwarf backline right now. And suddenly, the battle has shifted. The entire tone has shifted towards the Cloven Ones, and the Bray Herds are looking pretty strong at the moment, which feels very thematic to how the Beastmen approach warfare. First, they charge in with the fodder to test your defenses, then they melt back into the woods to reassess, they feint, they probe, they retreat, and then they come at you with everything they have when they sense weakness. Only now, they still have to contend with a full health Iron Demon War Engine that spits flame and a great Taurus flying overhead, so this is a long shot from being over. Still though, they just cleared out a lot of the Chaos Dwarf army that was a big threat to them. Those shotgunners can no longer deal any more death to the Bray Herds, but what can is that flame projector, and the Ungor archers that just routed off and came back. They got way too blobbed up, and they got mollywopped, punished heavily by that shot. Oh my lord. And then the Taurus came in from above, gored a bunch of their number too, and that's just going to be straight Terror Bomb City. And they're really close to the white line too, so they could rout off and play no further impact in this battle, and that would be a big win for the Chaos Dwarfs, because the last thing they want is having their single entities shot to pieces by 3 full units of Ungor archers in the late stages of this battle. Shotgunners are fighting for their dear life right now, but the Jabberslight is having none of it, armor sundering and spurting bile blood with that Aura of Madness, dealing a Mortis effect in an AoE. No Vorpal Blades amongst their number to slay the beast, and the Jabberslight is feasting on their number, and it looks like the Manticore is going to be able to chase off a good portion of the army as well. With the Minotaurs with great weapons now on the Iron Demon War Engine, this is shifting heavily in the Man-Blight tribe's favor, and I think the Chaos Dwarfs are running out of steam here, even though they have a tank that can still cause some problems. Taurus has been used well this game, except for that little hiccup there where it chased after Khazrak and Minotaurs and got itself beat to crap, but other than that, its spell usage, its positioning, its target marking, it's been a net positive for the Dawizar Empire. But as the Blazing Beards of Bazarak make their last stand against Khazrak One Eye and his Razor Gourd Chariot, his sword is going to start relieving them of their heads, and they're going to get just a little bit shorter. There's nothing on the field at this point that is a danger to Khazrak One Eye. The Taurus itself would not be able to win in a duel against him. That's to say nothing of the half HP Vorburgland Broodmother stomping its way around the battlefield. Minotaurs are going after the Iron Demon War Engine. They will finish off the Demon's Tongue, which will get one last great shot into their number. One thing I have noticed, we've played some other games with this flamethrowing tank. It can kill monsters and monstrous infantry pretty effectively too. I've seen it shooting into Plague Toads and killing 6, 7, 8 models a shot if they're grouped up around a target. So it has more use than just killing infantry, but in this case, it will not be able to win in melee against Minotaurs with great weapons who excel in this role, and as it unleashes a bit more demonic steam, it will explode, and that will be the game. Beastmen taking the battlefield against the Chaos Dwarfs, and that was a really fun one. That had all those ebbs and flows that I really enjoy, where one side kind of gets taken to Pound Town at the start, retreats, thinks about how to re-engage, goes back in, and then find some weaknesses and openings to exploit. And a lot of back and forth on both sides. Great plays on both sides too. Had a lot of fun with that. So 2,400 damage value for both Khazrak and the Minotaurs. The Broodmother itself didn't do a whole lot in this game in terms of killing, but the formation disruption and just the threat that it posed, I think, made it worth bringing in this battle regardless. And it, alongside the Razorgore Herd and the Manticore, those 5 top units on the Beastmen side really carried the day, because the infantry got destroyed by the Dawizar in this one. Their Fireborn were great. Sorcerer Prophet was definitely solid. Iron Demon War Engine with the flame-projecting tank and cannon and all that. Think it might see some play against those low leadership factions that have lots of swarm infantry. Just the ability to shoot and then charge in and immediately cause a terror rout, clear an objective, clear enemies off the point. I think that could be an interesting strat to try out in Domination as well.